All right. Okay, let's get started here. We are in our class on parenting. There we go. Good to have everybody with us. Appreciate you being with us tonight. Or today we're going to be talking about transitions in parenting. I think we probably has as many grandparents in here as we do young parents. And so this is a lesson for a lot of us. This is the source of a lot of friction sometimes in families. We don't understand this concept of transitioning. And so we will be talking about that. You have outlines. We'll look at those in just a minute. We're really on the home stretch here. We are into December. This class will end in December, so we have just 3 more lessons after this. And so we're going to try to pick out some things to talk about. The subject of parenting is huge, and there's so many areas that things bring up. When you're a young parent and you have little ones, it's hard to envision them dating someday. That will happen if the Lord allows. And to deal with those kind of issues and questions. It's sometimes hard to envision my child being married and having a child someday. Well, that happens. And so as we think about this, there's just lots of things to be talked about. Our focus predominantly, since this is a Bible class, is what the Bible teaches. We can get into all kinds of psychology, and there's all kinds of helps and books out there, but best thing in this setting is to talk about some things the Bible teaches, and that's where we're going to be. So let's look at our outline here. Let's begin there, and then we'll have some things for you to fill in, and maybe some questions at the end as time permits. It says, one obvious thing that parents notice is how fast their children grow up. I was told before I became a parent, you turn around 3 times, and they're gone. In the moment, it doesn't seem like it. In the moment, you come home and your child has decided to color the wall with his crayons. You think, oh, come on. Or the diaper years. I remember when we finally got the last one potty trained, I think, wow, there ought to be an award or something for this. You know, you ought to get a trophy or something. You know, you just, you know. But in the moment, sometimes it's hard to see that. But when you look back, it does go fast. And sometimes you look back and you think, you know, I was so into the moment, I didn't see the big picture. And it's important always to see the big picture. When we talk about our walk with the Lord or other aspects of that, it does move quickly. And one of the things you really need to get in your heart and your mind, and that is you can't go back. Some of us that are, we would call senior citizens, I can't believe I am that right now. I was in the store a while back and somebody says, you want a senior discount? I said, no, I'll take the sophomore discount. That didn't go too well. So, you know, one of the things when you get to be a point of my age, your parents are already passed away, and you think, you know, if I could go back for one moment in time, what would it be? And I hear this over and over from so many people. I would just love to go back, be at the kitchen table, mom, dad, my brothers, my sisters, and just all the stuff we were doing. You know, it's not a vacation I missed. It's not something, you know, a special Christmas. It's just being around each other. And one of the things you're going to notice, this is where we are in our family, is that with 4 kids, their families, their kids, it's hard, almost impossible to get everybody together on the same page. Because, well, we're going to do this, we're doing this, how about in 5 years, can we all be together one week? You know, it's hard to do that. It's just hard. And so what I'm saying with this is as a parent, enjoy the moment. The moment may be stressful, the moment may be hard, but their time comes when they start school, and off they go. And they're not a little child playing with their trucks around their floor all the time. There comes that time when they're going to start driving. And there's going to come, as we're going to talk about tonight in this lesson here, there comes a time when they'd rather talk to someone else than talk to you. And so as all these things happen, there's a lot of transitions. And so one of the things we fail to sometimes see and really to teach is as your child transitions, You as a parent transition in the methods you raise them. And that's what this is all about. And so in the second paragraph, some parents struggle with this. Some don't seem to understand this. But as your child grows, your parenting methods change. The discipline of a 5-year-old and a teen are not the same. What you expect out of that 5-year-old and that teen are not the same. And so there are 3 phases of parenting you move through. And it is not uncommon for you to be in 1 or 2 of these phases at the same time. You may have a little one and you're in phase 1. You may have another child and you're in phase 2 because of his age. And so you're not going to parent them exactly the same. And that's what we're trying to see here and try to look at. And so we begin, first of all, with the first phase. This is teaching. This goes from newborn to early school years. As we mentioned earlier in our study, your child comes in this world knowing nothing. He does not know how to speak. He does not know his name. He knows nothing. And you have to be his teacher. Now let's grab this passage here in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 5 through 9. This is one of the foundational passages that God was telling Israel about how to train their children. Deuteronomy 6, starting with verse 5, you shall love the Lord your God with all your soul, with all your might. These words which I'm commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as signs on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. You shall write them on doorposts of your house and on your gates. In other words, while they're young, you're teaching. And you become your child's first teacher. You get older and say, well, who's the first teacher you remember? And you might say, well, I had this 3rd grade teacher, or I had this teacher who was 6th grade. Your first teacher is your parents. And your first introduction to God comes through your mom and your dad. And so this is why this is so essential as you think about this. Here are some of the basics you're going to be teaching your children in this age time period. You're going to teach them about God, about worship, about the Bible. That is important. It's important to get them to understand while we're in here, we're reverent. We're listening. Now, when they're real little, we understand that. You need to bring the toys and bring the little Cheerios and things like that. But there's a time when they got to grow out of that. And there's a time where you're going to bring notebooks for them to write down things. There's going to be a time where you're going to give them a bulletin to fill in the note cards because they're learning, and those are things that has to be. I was at a place one time preaching in a meeting, and there was like 4 or 5 junior high school kids, and when they left, the songbook rack was just full of chip wrappers. They came in with a whole bunch of chips, and I think, where is your mother? Where is your mother? Okay? Now, if the child's real little, I understand that, but when you're that age, come on. You're going to teach them also respect and authority. Begins first with mom and dad. And as we get to the next phase, even before you get out of this phase, this will be challenged. The terrible twos, they won't challenge your authority. They'll challenge you. Some, as they get older, get kind of mouthy. And again, this is something that they have to learn. They have to learn the idea of sharing. This is especially true when they have a sibling in the house, either younger or older. They have to learn to share. And again, that's hard. Some people never learn that. And what we're seeing here in this very, very first phase is you'll find adults today who don't know these things. And the reason is they were never taught. And so this is your number one responsibility here to do this. And this brings up the next word, and that is responsibility. There are things that you just have to take care of, okay? When the grandkids come over and they just trash the house, I love trashing it with them. Before we leave, we sing a little song, clean up, clean up, clean up. Yes, we are. We got it out. We're putting it back up. That's teaching them responsibility. You have to do that. Being honest. It's so, so important to get that early. To be honest. Be truthful. Be a person of integrity. Okay? And then that there is consequences and there's forgiveness. They have to learn that. that you just can't say anything you want to say. You just can't do anything you want to do because it affects other people. And there's consequences. So these are some of the big value lessons you're teaching them. You're going to teach them about money. They're not going to learn this anywhere else but home. And how sad it is. I was reading some report the other day. It's scary to think about where America is financially. Scary to think where families are today. Okay? We can't live and operate like Congress, spending more than we bring in. That just does not work. And so how you learn this? You learn this at home. You learn about money. You learn about saving. You learn about giving. You learn about helping other people. Those are some valuable lessons you have to do. And then manners. How to talk to people. How to be pleasant. And how to be respectful. Again, all of those things are just some early lessons. And so when we're in phase one, that's what you're doing. You're teaching. And I remember, I know where your young parents are. There was days I felt like I wish somebody out there in somebody like Dan over in the IT world could develop this system and just say, push one, because we had this lesson yesterday, and I guess we didn't get it. We're going to do it again. Push number 2. Here we go. We're repeating these, and that's what you have to do. You have to repeat these lessons and be patient. They're learning, and those are some things I have to see with that. We have this illustration of those blocks there. When you look at that, what does that teach you about parenting? It's a great lesson there. Stacking blocks. That's one of the fun things I like to do with the grandkids. Stack them up. How high can you get? And we can stack them higher than they are. Then they huff and they puff and try to blow that thing over. Okay, Miss Cheryl.
You have to have a good foundation.
That's where you start, foundation. Got to get it strong. Got to get it wide. Got to get it deep, okay? If you start with just one block and put another block on, by about block number 6, it's going to fall over. You got to get that foundation. And what is the foundation? Here it is. These words. That's the foundation you're building upon. And so it's so important to kind of develop those things and get that concept. Questions or thoughts about this? Now, 2 things. Number 1, mom and dad have to be on the same page. Mom's teaching one thing, dad's teaching something else. There's going to be a conflict there. Number 2, what's taught in here needs to be taught at home. What's taught at home needs to be taught in here. And so there's a consistency. It's not like, well, in church we do this, but at home, no. We are doing what God says everywhere. So there needs to be that consistency, and that is important to kind of develop during this time period and things like that. Let me just ask you this question. How do you deal with those terrible 2s? How do you deal with them? Everything you say, no. Time to go to bed, no. Time to eat this, no. And it seems like every other word is no. And it just wears on you as a parent. I guarantee you it wears on you. How do you deal with this? Mr. Jim, how would you deal with that? Patience. Okay. Okay. What happens if they say no enough and you get so worn out and you're so tired of hearing that and you're just, all right, this one time. You're shaking your head no, Sherry. Why? How come? Why? Okay. They know. All I have to do, now see, I got grandma this time by saying no 12 times. So 12 is my number. And so whenever I have to do something, I'm going to say no enough times, wears them out, and eventually they'll give in. Can't do that. Now, there's going to be a little battle there, okay? But you have to win the war. And the war is you just don't get your way because you say no. And that's hard. That's hard. And man, there's many times I want to put those kids in the trash. Many times. Think, I am not getting this. They are wearing me out. But you just stay with it, and you stay with it, and you stay with it I remember, I probably shouldn't say this, she'll beat me for this, but I'll go ahead and say this. My daughter Sarah, when she had her first child, it was a little girl, we were leaving the hospital, and I said, I'm so glad you got a little girl. She goes, why, Dad? I said, oh, you'll see. You'll see. The Lord pays you back. So, but again, that's the lesson. I want you to see this. Don't cave in. Number one, God doesn't cave in, does he? You need to be baptized. No, you need to be baptized. No. Okay, you don't have to be baptized. Yes. No. Policeman pulls you over. No. See how far that goes. No. Boss at work. No, that's not going to work, is it? So you're teaching them life lessons. It's not about the hour you're going to bed. It's about life lessons there. And there's going to be times when it is so easy just to say yes. But if it's something you really don't think they should have or do, you got to stick to your guns and stay with that, okay? A classic example is go to Walmart about 8:30 on Saturday morning. You'll see every parent just having meltdowns. It's not the kids having meltdowns, it's the parents having meltdowns, okay? Because the kids see something, the marketers know where to put the stuff, right at eye level, right at checkout, right where you think no, and there it is. And just have to learn, okay? Thoughts? Okay, Ms. Cheryl?
Okay. I totally am 100% with you on this. My question is, what if your child, grandchild, whatever, wasn't taught like that?
Well, it's like the seasons of planting. I don't know if some of you remember, I had a sermon sometime last year called The Seasons of Parenting. And I took it off of the idea of a farmer planting. So in the spring, that's when the farmer's going to be planting. He's going to be planting his corn and beans and stuff like that. Well, if I've messed around, been sick, whatever, it's now summertime. I can do it, but I'm behind time. If I wait till fall, and I wait till now, let's say the farmers took off the whole year, and now here we are in December, and say, this week I'm planting corn. Good luck. It's going to grow because you missed it. So part of this is understanding as a parent, I've got a now moment. And so what we're looking at here is from newborn to early school years, that's that now moment to do the teaching. If I miss that, it's going to be harder. Pray to God, keep working, but you got to get at that. But the optimum time is where we're seeing this right here. Okay, and that's the answer. Okay, thoughts? Okay, next phase. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see it. Yes. Right. She's talking about being consistent. If you say something, stick with it, okay? A lot of parents love to go down the road of counting. 1, 2. I used to just say 3. And they said, well, wait a minute. I said, who came up with this 1, 2, 3 thing? I'm just telling you right now, you need to behave, okay? So again, that consistency. When they're at home, they need to behave. When you go visit people, you're going to the holidays, you're going to grandma's house, you're going to go to somebody else's house, they need to behave. Okay? I'll never forget this. We were in Illinois. We were just married, newly married. We had no kids. We had a couple over from church. They had 3 or 4 kids. And I remember Debbie was with the mother in the kitchen. I was with the man. He was just looking right at me face to face. I could see his kids in the background. And they were grabbing everything and touching everything. And it's like, turn your head. So, again, consistent. Okay? When we're over here, this is what we're going to do. You prep them ahead of time. We're going to the funeral home. This is how we act. We're going to the church house. This is how we act. We're going to grandma's house. This is how we act. Don't be asking grandma for all this stuff. If grandma is old and she doesn't have good sense, and she'll give you everything. Don't listen to her. This is the rules, okay? Don't go up to grandpa and ask him if he has money, because he'll just open up his wallet and give you his credit card. That's the way grandpas are. Don't do that. Here are the rules. When you come home, as we behaved out there, we're going to behave in this way at home. It's not like, okay, now we're at home and we can be just wild Indians. No, we're not. We got to behave at home. We got to behave everywhere. And again, when it's inconsistent, it sends mixed messages. And you see that in our culture today. You see kids, and it's like they're confused. They don't know how to behave, because it's okay to be goofy and wild and irrespectful, or not respectful over here, but over here I got to be different. You have to be the same everywhere. Good thoughts. Number 2, reasoning. So you're changing now. We're transitioning. You see this? We've gone from teaching now to reasoning. Your child has gone from school, or he's in school years, to early adult. Now, you're not the only voice your child hears and pays attention to or is interested in. He has school teachers. He has classmates. He has friends at church. He has neighborhood kids. He's getting all these perspectives now. And it's during this time period your child will play sports, get his first job, start driving, start dating, have their own phone. And now, with all these different ideas floating through their heads, your role is going to be challenged. And again, it is very important that we're not just telling them, as you would in the first phase, no, you do this. No, you go to bed now. Now you're reasoning. You're getting them to think. You're getting them to see, okay, if I say mean things to people, they're not going to treat you nice. Do you like things said mean to you? And the answer is no. And so what you're doing is trying to get them to think during this time period. Those passages there in the book of Proverbs, interesting, they all are addressed from a perspective of a father to his son. Father is teaching his son. And so through the first big section of Proverbs, it's that idea of you're trying to get them to see and reason within their hearts about this. And so it is during the season that your child will really develop his attitude, his character, and his habits. Some of them can be awesome. Some can be really bad. And so it's during this time period when a lot become Christians. It's during this time period. Some of the big life choices are going to be made. What do I want to do when I grow up? Well, I'm about to be grown up, so I've got to make that decision. What school am I going to go to? Who am I going to marry? See, these are some big, big things. Now, what are they built upon? They're built upon those foundations, those blocks you did in the first phase. And so you're reinforcing them now, but now what you're trying to do is getting them to think. Let's turn our Bible, if you will, to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 13. 1 Corinthians 13. The context here is spiritual gifts. And the Apostle Paul is trying to get the Corinthians to see that God sent spiritual gifts in the church's infancy. But when the church matured, when God's word was given, we didn't need spiritual gifts. We would have God's word. But there's this great expression here in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. See that? What happened? He's grown up. It's not just in size. We're talking about the insides he's grown up. He's learned what kindness is. He's learned to be a servant. He's learned to help people. He's considering all the options and other people. And so again, this is a very, very important phase. Go with me to Proverbs 31. That is listed there in the outline. I want to just give you an example of this. Proverbs 31. We refer to this as the section of the virtuous woman. But I want you to notice how it begins, and then some of the things that she brings out here. Proverbs 31. And it says, beginning in verse 1, the words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him, what, O my son, and what, O my son of my womb, and what, O my son of my vows. And so this is the words of a mom to her grown son, who's going to be the king. And mom can't just tell him, here's what you're going to do, but this is what she wants to impress upon him. So in verse 4, it's not for kings, O Lemur. It's not for kings to drink wine, for the rulers to desire strong drink. Stay away from alcohol. It's not going to make you a better king. It's not going to make you smarter. Don't do that. She's reasoning with him on this. Verse 9, open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the afflicted and the needy. Don't forget the little guy. Now that you're a king, don't oppress people. Again, she's reasoning with him. And then starting in verse 10, describes what we talk about, this virtuous woman. Here's a type of woman you need to marry. Someone who's going to make you a good queen, someone you can trust, someone that's going to be good to you. That is what we're talking about here. Now, it is in this time period where your kids will start knowing people of the church by name and by character. It's a man who's no longer with us. His name was Don Noty. Don was one of the elders in Kansas City, just a dear, dear, dear friend to our family. And he was a veteran in Korean War. He was in the Presidential Guard. He stood right beside Truman on many occasions, met Shah of Iran, just distinguished man, godly man. And I remember taking him out with my youngest two, Jordan and Joe, and just spending the day with him. They got some frozen root beer, and he would just tell war stories. And then right after that, on a regular basis, if not once a month, twice a month, Jordan and Joe would be going out and say, where are you going? Where I'm going with Don Noty. I said, well, he didn't invite me. He said, no, Dad, this is our thing. And what it was is they became good friends, even though he's a generation older than I am. At his death, all my family came because he was such an integral person. And so again, when we think about Jason's lesson a while ago about heroes, you look about this room. You look about this church. Get your kids, as they get old enough, to know the saints in this church, the senior people, and get them to have relationships with them. And again, it will help them on their own and their independence to do those things. And that's just a wonderful thing to see with that. Thoughts about this? Again, what we're doing in this phase here is we're reasoning. You don't do this because. Now, first phase, he wants to stick a pencil in the light socket. No. This phase, now you understand what's behind this wall? You can't see it, but behind this wall is electricity. You stick something in there and you're going to have an afro like you don't want one. You don't do that. You don't just be doing things you don't understand. And what you're doing is you're reasoning. You're teaching reasoning, you're kind of getting him to see. Now we come to phase 3, and now again we shift. Another transition. This is the second page here of the outline. And what we see here is now your children are adults. They are married. Very easily, they are in phase 1 or 2 or both with their own families. Okay? And so they have full-time jobs. They own their own homes. They have their families. And so they are making decisions about their life. And so when we think about dealing with adult children, again, there's some things we have to see and appreciate. It says here, you will find your grown child doing things differently than you did. And we need to stop there. We grandparents, you need to underline that. This causes so much trouble in homes today because your son is doing things differently than you did. But he's now married and he's learning from his wife how she did things. And we got this conflict. Now, this is how we always do it. Well, is that written in the Bible? No. And so what happens is we forget what phase we're in. We're in advising phase now. And advice is just that. Not everybody likes advice. Not everybody's going to agree with your advice. But what happens is some parents are still in the phase 1 with a grown adult. I'm teaching you. I'm telling you. I remember when you couldn't even get out of bed without me picking you up. I laid out your clothes for you. Here's what you're eating. Here's what shows you're watching. Here's when you go into bed. I controlled your life. But guess what now? Dad, you're just wrong. You keep talking that way, and there's a room. They put people like you when you get too old. They put you in this room. You see? And it creates lots and lots of issues in the home. You don't want to put your child in a place of having to choose between you, the parent, and his mate. They will choose the mate. You're not the most important voice to them anymore. You're not their best friend right now. Now that's hurtful because you think, well, you're just cute little bit. They're always going to be my best friend. No. As you have grown up and as you have married, you realize I love my mom and dad, but there's things I tell my mate I don't tell my mom and dad. Why? Because it's none of their business. And so this is the phase that again, you have to see and you have to appreciate. The influence of your child's mate is greater and stronger than your influence. And they will listen to their mate more than they listen to you. And so the times I believe you need to speak out and speak up if you see something wrong biblically. If they're crossing the line with God, their soul may be in jeopardy, you need to speak out. But they're going to decorate their house so different than you do. I remember walking to one of my kids' house, I will not say it, and I thought, good night, that's the ugliest pit. I can't paint, and I can paint better than that. Didn't say it. Why? Because they bought it, and they hung it on the wall. Why would you hang that on the wall? That's their taste, not my taste. But if you start going to their house and say, you know what, that picture there would look better on that wall over there. Do you want me to move it? No, you don't do that. You're creating a war. You come in their house, you might say, oh, that paint color is disgusting. But you know what? In the book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time to speak and a time to be quiet. And you got to learn that time. You find out they're not going to church at all. Hey, I'm going to unlock this. I'm going to do some talking to you because you were taught better than that. I see you're doing some things that's not right with God. I'm going to unlock these lips. I'm going to say some things because this is what God says. But other than that, why did you buy that car? Why do you, and I've had to find that key several times, okay? Why do you have 2 monster dogs in your house? They're big as horses. I'll never have it, but they can. See what I'm saying here? Now again, conflicts come up when we as grandparents don't remember that. We have transitioned. We are now in the advising. We come into the holidays and everybody's coming Christmas Eve to our house. Well, they've got a different house. Turn your Bible, if you will, to the book of Matthew chapter 19. And this is just a great reminder of this. Matthew chapter 19, as the Pharisees was thumping Jesus about divorce and such things, Jesus quotes from the book of Genesis, Matthew 19, verse 5. For this reason, quoting from Genesis 2, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Leaving father and mother is not so much about location as it is maturity, and we have a separate home here. They do things differently there. It may not have been the way they were raised up, but now it's their own home, and you have to appreciate that. And that's hard, because some of us have all of these traditions we've done. We've always done it this way, and you got to keep doing that. No, they do not have to keep doing that. And that's some things we have to see. Okay, got some questions here. I don't know if we'll get to very many or not. But as we look at our questions here, describe the difference between teaching, reasoning, and advising. It's a shift in authority, the shift in understanding. And that's the key we want you to see and appreciate. What conflicts arise, number 2, when parents do not recognize which season their child is in? The parents are completely being in control, very demanding, and they're going to cause a lot of tension when their child's in phase 3, but they think they're still in phase 1. And so some of the problems come about because we don't understand the transitions about this. It's commonly thought, number 3, that in the conversation, if one person is doing more than 50% of the talking, they are lecturing. How do you avoid that? You listen. You ask questions. You let them talk. Especially in the reasoning part. Especially in the advising part. That's what you're doing. Now, grown kids, they'll still seek your advice. Dad, why do you think about doing this? Why do you think about this? You give them the advice. But you remember who you're talking to. You're talking to a grown adult now, not a little child. And that's important to do that. Number 4, during the middle season, when you need to be reasoning with your child, yet he's being influenced by so many others, how can you make your voice the one that he will trust? It's because of the time you spent with him. It's the love you established. It's a relationship you have built. That's what you're going to go back to. Number 5, is it possible for an adult child to change his attitude, character, and heart? And the answer is yes. All of us have when we became Christians. Yes, you can do that. How can the parent of a grown child not say something when you see him doing things that you do not like? Realize that they're different than you are. And realize that unless it's wrong, it's okay. Different doesn't have to be wrong. We have this little phrase we use all the time. Man, that's weird. But you can be weird and go to heaven. You can be different and go to heaven. What you can't be is disobedient to God. And so, again, you learn those little things about that. Number 7, in all 3 phases, there's a line between helping your child and enabling them. How do we distinguish and what ought we to consider? Sometimes we enable just to avoid the trouble, keep them out of trouble. But sometimes spending a day with the pigs, as the prodigal did, you learn some lessons. And sometimes that's very, very important to do. One of the hardest issues, number 8, between parents and grown child is finances. What are some guidelines you recommend? Again, you're now in the advising phase. But you know what? As you are in that phase, say, this is what I did when I was in my 20s. This is what helped me through the years. I've always stuck with a budget. I always did this. I always did this. And they don't want to hear it, then they're not going to hear it. As parents age, one of the shifts that takes place is for the grown child to take care of the parents. Often, many struggles take place about driving, living alone, what works. 1 Timothy 5:4 talks about making a return to your parents in that way. Again, reasoning. Dad, you're so forgetful. You spend 30 minutes in Walmart parking lot looking for your car because you can't remember what car you have. Now it's time to give up your keys, Dad. Okay? Things like that. All right. Wish we could have more time on this, but that's going to be it for now, and we'll continue on more next week. Thank you.